All right, once again, we're doing I Saw a Movie So You Didn't Have to. That's right, another movie review, and let me tell you, you really don't have to see this movie, The Blue Beetle. If you want to hear why, and I promise you there's going to be some spoilers, so turn away now if you don't want to see them, because here we go. All right, we're going to start out at the beginning. First of all, I went into this film as oblivious as I could possibly be, despite the fact that I've been on some panels with people who've kind of broken the film down in a way that, well, there was going to be little left to the imagination. And to be fair, I kind of spaced out, so I really didn't know what I was going into. And if you saw me on Comics Division's Thursday Night Throwdown, you kind of probably saw me just zoning out. Maybe going to sleep. I don't know, but in my mind it was elsewhere, not only in an effort to avoid spoilers, but also because what he was talking about wasn't terribly interesting. And I think the audience is going to be surprised by what I found out when I watched the film for myself. And I went with somebody who went with me, and we ended up in a theater that was, well, it wasn't very big. In fact, I think probably maybe 50 seats total. It was in a lot of other theaters, to be fair. I just happened to choose a showing that was in a smaller theater. And I don't know, maybe that affected my experience, because there were 12 other people in this box and it still didn't feel half full. So maybe I'm underestimating the number of seats, but I'll say this, some of the music choices were great. The audio was perfect. The film, of course, I always try to say good things first, was in focus, and the lighting was great, and a lot of stuff didn't take place at night, although a considerable amount of the CGI heavy things did. And well, George Lopez is insufferable, and I guess that's supposed to be his character. But we'll start at the beginning. The film itself starts in a non-unique way. You obviously have your would-be hero coming home from college and finding upon his arrival at his celebration meal from graduation that his family has lost their primary business and are losing their home. So it didn't start out particularly well, and bleak, in fact, stealing or borrowing from Spider-Man or several other superheroes, of course. Lots of bleak involved in that. Now, he ends up with a job, courtesy of his little sister, working at a rich person's house. Somewhere in, I guess, what would be either Puerto Rico or the Keys or something like that. At least it's supposed to be. It doesn't seem like a real place at all. So, you know, do with that what you will. Now, they talk about coming from Mexico to this fictional location, and I'm trying to figure out how they got from point A to point B when they talk about, you know, crossing the border and stuff at some point during the film. That doesn't really matter. This really doesn't, not germane to the review here. But regardless, they lose the job that they get at the rich person's house because, well, Jaime stands up for the, well, I guess would be heroine, Cord's daughter. If you know anything about Blue Beetle, you'll know that this is like the third coming of the Blue Beetle that you're going to be experiencing. And anyway, so feeling bad that Jaime lost his job, the young lady, Miss Cord, I'll call her, she offers him an opportunity somewhere else in Cord Enterprises, you know, and actually puts her number in his phone. Of course, his little sister says she's into him, and that may be true, but we'll get into the romance elements later. Now, we move forward, and Jaime's out in front of the building getting ready to go in, and of course, his family embarrasses him, just like you've seen in the trailer. Well, he goes in to get said job, and of course the receptionist misspeaks his name multiple times, not pronouncing his first name properly, calling him Jamie. Well, that seems to be a running trope in this particular one, which I can tell you right now is, well, completely false in today's world. Everybody knows how to say Jaime, and everybody knows how to pronounce most Spanish last names. We'll set that all aside. The interesting thing is, obviously, as you've seen in the trailer, Miss Cord comes down with a box that looks like a burger that actually contains the scarab, or the beetle. And he takes it home, doesn't open the box till he gets home, and his family kind of encourages him to open the box, which he does. And they all kind of handle the beetle and pass it around, and, you know, George, whatever his name is, I don't care. He takes the thing. I guess I'm trying to remember what his name is. This is how much these characters really impressed themselves upon me, is I don't remember their names. I think the sister's name is Milagro. And I can't remember the Miss Cord, the young Cord lady's first name either, but that, again, couldn't be less important. Anyway, they open the box, pass the beetle around, ridiculous things ensue, and Jaime ends up with the beetle, which promptly attacks him, as you've seen in the trailer, and attacks his face, and they become the Blue Beetle. Of course, you know, everything you've seen in the trailer, it happens right then. Flight testing, systems testing, all of those things, including the splitting the bus in half. So you've basically seen some of the most impressive effects in the trailer before you even watch the movie. So you kind of didn't need any of what I just told you, because honestly, from there, you just get a paint-by-numbers film. Of course, the Scarab is something that the evil Cord leader now is searching for when they find, you know, they're going to exploit it as a weapon at some really ridiculous bunch of stuff. There's a lot of ripped off here from Iron Man, in case you were wondering. This is DC's Iron Man, I guess. But anyway, regardless, they end up having this tech. Obviously, Miss Reyes is in Miss Cord is in big trouble. So Jaime just happens to be conveniently driving by the building and basically picks her up, destroys the uncle's truck, George Lopez's truck, which is called the Taco. Yeah, not on the nose at all. No stereotypes in this film at all. You hear the sarcasm? Anyway, the film is incredibly predictable from that point on. The bad guys come out, start shooting the heck out of the truck while they're escaping. They escape to Miss Cord's old family home that nobody's been to since she was 8 years old, and only to discover that this is the original Blue Beetle headquarters for the tech that was built by her dad, because her dad was the former Blue Beetle. I think I already said that, Mr. Cord. And again, they kind of try to honor that legacy in the film. Basically, he extracted kind of his technology from the Scarab because it wouldn't bond with him, but that's not important. Anyway, you get to the point in the film where obviously the family's now in trouble. So he coaxes the beetle into existence. He goes to try to save his family, and he doesn't do a great job. And I skipped a whole bunch of the movie because it doesn't matter. In fact, there's very little in this film that matters, other than at the very end, he overcomes adversity, spares the bad guy, and because he did, he was able to convince the bad guy to take the bad lady, which is Susan Sarandon. Couldn't have picked a better bad person, let me tell you, because in real life, not a great human. Anyway, and the bad guy drags her to the exploding helicopter and over amplifies his power in his suit and blows himself up along with it. So everybody's gone. Well, not everybody. I mean, you have obviously the family all together in old Cord tech. It's a flying beetle, by the way. More on the nose. And again, it's kind of honoring the comic book. Let me back up. I'm not being critical about that. I think it's great that you're honoring the previous iteration, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of demeaning things done in the name of this. All that being said, is you end up with a slight bit of romance in something that I consider to be a decent amount of family drama, and if it weren't for the underlying messaging, this would have been a decent film. And it wasn't terrible. I just wanted to start out saying that at the beginning, and I may have forgotten to, but it's not terrible. It just isn't good. The film is probably a 6 out of 10 if that's how you'd like to rate it. And it falls somewhere around a 3.25 to a 3.0 on my star scale. So 3.5 stars. It gets you somewhere between, I don't know, 6 and 7, probably just 3 stars to be fair. And it's just slightly better than average, but it's not exciting. And you can really see, this is the thing that I noticed the most. Despite all the great acting performances, by the way, except for Lopez, who I really despise, and I don't really like his character either, so that's 0 for 2 there. But you really had some great acting. You just had a television show, and you can see it. You can see that this thing started out as a television show and then was turned into a film. What else? The romance bit was cool. Kind of nice. Lots of humor in this one. I would say probably the very first Guardians of the Galaxy level humor. I think the audience is tired of that too. Overall, I would say that they did possibly the best they could have done with this character the way it is iterated. They do unfortunately rely too much on a heritage conversation, which didn't need to be present and could have just been there in the background. But that's inoffensive. There's no real messaging there. It's the other kinds of Marxist ideology stuff that shows up that you should be expecting in pretty much all of these films now, especially after the way you were told this film was going to be portrayed by both the actor and the director and many others. Ultimately, like you said, not a bad film, just not a great one. What else is happening here? Oh, as I said, my final rating. I I don't think anybody needs to see this. I think it should have stayed a streaming film, and I think that that's probably where most people are going to watch it. I think the performances, like I said, are amazing. I think the story was okay. There were obviously plot holes in it all over the place, including a lift of a key card, and then there's no explanation about how that person got the key card back. I'm not sure they probably even shot the scene to explain how the person who had their key card lifted ended up with it back so they could get back into the room seconds later. When you watched, there was no opportunity for that to have happened in a sequence. So none of that made sense. And that's right at the beginning of the film. And from that point forward, every time there's a plot hole or some kind of thing like that, that's all I could see. Music, fantastic, by the way. There's a point at which they play some Cypress Hill. I think it's Cypress Hill. They play some amazing old school stuff that perfectly lines up with the action scene you're about to see. Again, you can tell I didn't hate the film because I'm saying some very positive things about it. I just don't think it needed to be a major motion picture. And I really hope this doesn't hurt Zolo's career, because I think he would have a really good one. Anyway, that's what I think. I saw a movie, so you didn't have to, and I hope the spoilers helped you decide that you weren't going to be interested either. I'm sure there's more I could say, but I didn't even take my notepad this time because I didn't think I'd need it. Oh, there is a mid-credit scene, which adds substantially to the idea that they were hoping that they would get a sequel. Mrs. Cord's dad is somewhere out there, and I didn't stick around for the last credit scene, if there was one. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching the extemporaneous, non-note-filled review. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, see ya!